2 years ago, we put a 2.5-liter Toyota hybrid powertrain and a 2.0-liter Toyota gas engine side by side and committed to running both of them hard until they each hit 200,000 miles. Same driving conditions as close as we could control them. Same maintenance schedules. Same grade of synthetic oil changed at the same intervals. Same type of use, highway miles, city stop and go, occasional towing of a small utility trailer, and long stretches of highway at 75 miles per hour with the cruise control locked in. We tracked every cost, every repair, every fuel receipt, every replacement part. And the loser of this test was not the one any of us predicted going in. Let me walk you through everything we found. Before I get into the results, let me establish exactly what we were testing and why it matters for anyone making a buying decision right now. The 2.5-liter hybrid powertrain is Toyota's fourth-generation hybrid system, which pairs a 2.5-liter dynamic force four-cylinder engine with 2 electric motor generators and a sealed nickel-metal hydride battery pack in the standard configuration, or a lithium-ion pack in some applications. You find this powertrain in the RAV4 Hybrid, the Camry Hybrid, the Highlander Hybrid, and the Venza. The combined system output ranges from 219 horsepower in the RAV4 application to 218 horsepower in the Camry, depending on configuration. The 2.0-liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder we tested is the M20AFKS dynamic force engine that Toyota uses in the standard Corolla, the base RAV4, and several international models. It produces 169 horsepower in the RAV4 application and 169 horsepower in the Corolla Cross. This is Toyota's most modern, naturally electrified free-gas powertrain technology, representing their latest engineering in non-electrified gas powertrains. Both engines were legitimate competitors when we started. Neither was old technology. The question was simple. After 200,000 miles of real use, which one cost less to own, which one remained more reliable, and which one still performed closest to how it felt when it was new? The first 50,000 miles were almost completely uneventful for both vehicles, which is exactly what you expect from Toyota powertrains in that range. The gas engine was noticeably simpler in its maintenance demands at this stage. Oil changes occurred every 10,000 miles using 0W20 full synthetic motor oil. There was one engine air filter replacement at the 30,000-mile mark, one cabin air filter at 15,000 miles, and a tire rotation at every oil change interval. That was essentially the entire maintenance bill for the gas vehicle through 50,000 miles, outside of wiper blades and one set of front brake pads. Total consumable and maintenance cost for the gas vehicle through 50,000 miles came to approximately $780 in parts and labor at independent shop rates. The hybrid vehicle's maintenance through the same 50,000 miles was nearly identical in terms of engine service. The 2.5-liter hybrid engine also uses 0W20 full synthetic oil changed at 10,000-mile intervals. The cabin air filter and engine air filter schedules matched. Here is where the first meaningful difference appeared. The hybrid vehicle had not used its friction brakes at anywhere near the rate of the gas vehicle. By 50,000 miles, the gas vehicle was on its second set of front brake pads and approaching needing the first replacement of front brake rotors. The hybrid, which uses regenerative braking through its front motor generator unit to slow the vehicle in most driving situations, still had over 60% of its original front brake pad material remaining. That difference in brake wear translated to roughly $340 in savings for the hybrid at the 50,000-mile mark that most people never account for when they compare purchase prices and operating costs. Fuel consumption through the first 50,000 miles was the biggest numerical difference, and it was not close. The gas RAV4 with a 2.0-liter M20A engine averaged 30.4 miles per gallon combined across our tracked driving mix, which was roughly 55% highway and 45% city driving. The hybrid RAV4 with the 2.5-liter system averaged 41.7 miles per gallon across the same driving mix. Over 50,000 miles at an average fuel price of $3.42 per gallon, which is what we tracked across our fill-up receipts during that period. The gas vehicle consumed approximately 1,644 gallons at a total fuel cost of roughly $5,623. The hybrid consumed approximately 1,199 gallons at a total fuel cost of roughly $4,100. That is a $1,523 fuel saving for the hybrid in the first 50,000 miles alone. When you add the brake maintenance savings, the hybrid was ahead by approximately $1,860 in total operating cost advantage by the 50,000 mile mark, before accounting for any difference in purchase price. From 50,000 to 100,000 miles, the story started to develop more texture. The gas vehicle required its first set of spark plugs at 60,000 miles. Toyota specifies iridium-tipped spark plugs for the M20A FKS and recommends replacement at 60,000 miles in normal service. A full set of 4 iridium spark plugs at dealer list price runs approximately $140 in parts, and installation on the M20A engine in the RAV4 is straightforward, with the plugs accessible from the top of the engine without removing significant components. Labor at an independent shop came to about $65. The hybrid required the same spark plug service at the same interval. The 2.5-liter dynamic force engine in the hybrid system also uses iridium-tipped spark plugs with the same replacement interval. Both vehicles spent approximately $205 on this service. No advantage to either powertrain there. What the hybrid vehicle did show at this mileage range was its first notable difference in how it behaved in hot ambient temperature conditions. On days when outside temperatures exceeded 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the hybrid battery thermal management system, which uses a dedicated cabin air intake duct to pull cooled air from the rear seat area to cool the nickel metal hydride battery pack mounted under the rear seat, worked noticeably harder. We could hear the battery cooling fan running more aggressively. Toyota's thermal management strategy for this battery is passive cabin air cooling, which means the battery temperature is tied to how well the climate control is maintaining interior temperature. In extreme heat, with the air conditioning working hard to cool the cabin, the battery fan was cycling almost continuously during stop-and-go driving. We monitored battery state of health throughout the test, using a Toyota-compatible scan tool that reads the battery capacity and cell balance data. At 100,000 miles, the hybrid battery was reading 91.3% of original rated capacity, which Toyota engineers consider well within the normal operating range for this mileage. The 100,000-mile service interval was the most significant scheduled maintenance event for both vehicles. The gas RAV4 required a coolant flush, which Toyota recommends at 100,000 miles or 10 years for its long-life coolant. A brake fluid flush, transmission fluid replacement in the 6-speed automatic, and a thorough inspection of the drive belts, including the serpentine belt that drives the alternator, power steering pump, and air conditioning compressor. Total cost for the 100,000-mile service on the gas vehicle at an independent shop came to approximately $520. The hybrid RAV4 at the same mileage required the same coolant flush, the same brake fluid flush, and the equivalent transaxle fluid service in its electronic continuously variable transmission. However, the hybrid does not use a conventional serpentine belt driving external accessories in the same way. The air conditioning compressor in the hybrid is electrically driven by the high voltage system rather than mechanically driven by a belt from the engine. This eliminates one component from the belt drive system and reduces the complexity of the front engine accessory drive. The hybrid's total 100,000-mile service cost was approximately $470, a modest savings. More significant was the brake situation. At 100,000 miles, the gas vehicle was on its third set of front brake pads and had required its first front brake rotor replacement at approximately 78,000 miles. The hybrid still had its original front brake rotors and approximately 35% of original front brake pad material remaining. Combined brake expenditure on the gas vehicle through 100,000 miles was approximately $890 in parts and labor. The hybrid had spent approximately $160 in the same category. That is a $730 advantage for the hybrid in brake-related costs alone through 100,000 miles. From 100,000 to 150,000 miles was the range where we expected the hybrid to potentially show battery degradation, and where we expected the gas engine to start showing the kind of gradual wear that becomes repair costs. Neither prediction was entirely accurate, but both had truth in them. The hybrid battery had declined to 86.1% of original capacity at the 150,000-mile mark, which is still within Toyota's own internal threshold for normal aging. The real-world fuel economy impact of this battery degradation was measurable. The hybrid averaged 40.2 miles per gallon in the 100,000 to 150,000 mile range compared to 41.7 miles per gallon in its first 50,000 miles. A real degradation, but a gradual one that translated to approximately $90 in additional fuel cost over that 50,000-mile segment compared to new condition performance. The gas engine showed its first unscheduled repair at 127,000 miles, when the vehicle's positive crankcase ventilation valve, which is mounted on the top of the valve cover and routes blow-by gases from inside the engine back into the intake system to be burned rather than vented to atmosphere, began to stick intermittently. The sticking PCV valve caused a rough idle at cold start and threw an evaporative system fault code. The part itself is a Toyota OEM unit that costs approximately $28 and takes roughly 20 minutes to replace on the M20A engine. Total repair cost was $28 in parts, plus 1 hour of diagnostic time at $125 per hour, so $153 total. Not catastrophic, but it was the first unscheduled cost the gas vehicle had generated. At 143,000 miles, the gas vehicle also required its second replacement of the engine air filter and a second set of rear brake pads, which had worn more evenly than the front pads given the gas vehicle's traditional hydraulic brake distribution. The hybrid at the same mileage still had its original rear brake components intact, with approximately 55% pad material remaining. Toyota's regenerative braking strategy in the RAV4 hybrid applies the majority of deceleration load to the front motor generator unit, which means the rear friction brakes on the hybrid see significantly less work than their counterparts on the gas vehicle in most driving conditions. The most significant event of the entire 200,000-mile test happened on the hybrid vehicle at 162,000 miles, and it is the moment that fundamentally changed our prediction of which vehicle would win this comparison. One of the two inverter cooling pump units specifically the electric water pump that circulates coolant through the power control unit inverter and the front motor generator unit to manage their operating temperatures, developed a leak at its inlet connection fitting. The power control unit inverter is the component mounted in the engine bay near the main fuse box that converts the high-voltage direct current from the hybrid battery into the alternating current the motor generators use and manages the energy flow between the engine, the battery, and the wheels. Toyota built this coolant circuit entirely separately from the engine cooling circuit because the inverter and motor generators have different temperature management requirements than the combustion engine. The leak at the electric water pump fitting caused a low coolant warning for the inverter cooling system, and the vehicle correctly went into a reduced power mode that limited hybrid system output while the issue was diagnosed. At an independent shop familiar with Toyota hybrid systems, the electric water pump assembly was replaced as a unit, along with fresh inverter coolant. Total repair cost was $487 in parts and labor. This was the largest single unscheduled repair cost either vehicle generated across the entire test. It also raised a legitimate concern about the additional component complexity that hybrid systems carry. The gas vehicle has none of these inverter cooling circuits. It has no motor generator units, no high-voltage battery cooling system, and no power control unit. When something fails on a gas powertrain at 160,000 miles, the failure is usually a conventional component that most shops can diagnose and repair. The hybrid repair required a shop with Toyota hybrid familiarity, which is increasingly common in most markets, but still represents an additional consideration for buyers in rural areas with limited service options. From 150,000 to 200,000 miles, both vehicles began to show the accumulated effects of high mileage use in ways that were similar in nature but different in character. The gas vehicle's engine used approximately half a quart of oil between its 10,000-mile change intervals by the time we reached 175,000 miles, which is within Toyota's published acceptable consumption range of 1 quart per 1,000 miles, but was noticeably different from the tight engine it had been at lower mileage. The hybrid's 2.5-liter engine showed no measurable oil consumption increase at the same mileage, which we attributed partly to its lower operating load. Because the electric motor generators assist the combustion engine during acceleration and allow it to run at lower loads during cruising, the 2.5-liter hybrid engine spends more of its running time in low-stress operating conditions compared to the 2-liter gas engine that carries the full propulsion load at all times without electric assist. At 188,000 miles, the hybrid battery had declined to 81.4% of original rated capacity, which produced a fuel economy average of 38.9 miles per gallon in the final segment of our test. Still significantly ahead of the gas vehicle, but the trajectory of battery degradation was measurable and continuing. At 200,000 miles, the gas vehicle returned 29.8 miles per gallon, very close to its original performance. Here is the complete cost accounting through 200,000 miles. Total fuel cost for the gas vehicle came to approximately $22,900 based on our tracked receipts and average fuel prices. Total fuel cost for the hybrid came to approximately $16,400. Fuel savings for the hybrid totaled approximately $6,500 across the full 200,000 miles. Total scheduled maintenance costs, excluding fuel, were approximately $2,100 for the gas vehicle and $1,890 for the hybrid, a $210 advantage for the hybrid. Total brake system costs were $1,240 for the gas vehicle and $320 for the hybrid, a $920 advantage for the hybrid. Total unscheduled repair costs were $153 for the gas vehicle and $487 for the hybrid, a $334 advantage for the gas vehicle. Total operating cost excluding purchase price difference came out to the hybrid saving approximately $7,296 over 200,000 miles compared to the gas vehicle. Now here is the part that requires honesty about what that number means and does not mean. The hybrid RAV4 at the time of our test had a purchase price approximately $4,300 higher than the gas RAV4 in equivalent trim. After accounting for that initial price difference, the hybrid still came out ahead by approximately $3,000 in total cost of ownership through 200,000 miles. However, that advantage assumes the hybrid battery does not require replacement before 200,000 miles, which ours did not, and it assumes fuel prices remain relatively stable at the levels we experienced during our test period. If fuel prices were to drop significantly and stay low, the hybrid's operating cost advantage shrinks proportionally. If the hybrid battery had needed replacement, which Toyota sells as a genuine OEM replacement assembly for approximately $3,800 to $4,400 depending on the specific vehicle, the hybrid would have lost the total cost comparison decisively. So which powertrain lost, and why did it surprise us? The gas engine lost on total cost of ownership by approximately $3,000 over 200,000 miles, which surprised us because the margin was narrower than we expected given the fuel economy gap. The hybrid's single large repair cost, the inverter cooling pump, and the trajectory of battery capacity decline at high mileage closed the gap significantly. The hybrid won, but it did not win by as much as the fuel economy numbers alone would suggest. More importantly, the 2.5-liter hybrid engine itself came out of this test in noticeably better condition than the 2.0-liter gas engine. At 200,000 miles, the hybrid engine showed less valve train wear, more consistent compression across all 4 cylinders, and cleaner combustion chamber deposits visible through the spark plug ports. We believe this is a direct result of the hybrid system allowing the combustion engine to operate more frequently in its optimal efficiency range, rather than being forced through its entire operating range under full load at all times. The lesson from this test is not that hybrids always win. It is that hybrids win reliably when fuel prices are at or above historical averages, when the battery reaches high mileage without requiring replacement, and when you drive enough annual miles to let the fuel savings compound. Below 12,000 miles per year, the gas engine's simplicity and lower purchase price create a genuine argument. Above 15,000 miles per year in a market where fuel is at or above $3 per gallon, the hybrid's economics become very difficult to argue against across 200,000 miles of ownership. If you drive a lot, you already know which powertrain won this test is the right one for you. Drop a comment below telling me which powertrain you currently have and what mileage you are at. I read every single one. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if this kind of real long-term data is what you want to see more of, because we have more tests running right now that will challenge some other assumptions people hold about modern powertrains. I will see you in the next one.